morning. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the North County Frederick Democrats and Friends with a special session by the Young Democrats, all in sponsorship of this Board of Education forum. We've got Democratic candidates here because this is a pre-primary forum, and I'm sure all of the candidates who are running, all the candidates who are running will be coming to see you again live at some time in the future. We've got 6 people today. Thank you all for coming to listen to them, and thanks especially to the candidates. Our moderator is Lois, Jarman, who will explain the rules right now.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank Kathy and Bill for giving me this opportunity to moderate the forum. Education is extremely important to me. In fact, that's how Kathy and I met in 2005, the spring thereof. Kathy was my instructor for my independent studies in medieval French. And so we have bonded and built over the last 20 plus years over language and politics and many other things. So Horace Mann in the 19th century said, education is the great moderator. Or the great, I just forgot his quote. Equalizer, that's the word. I'm the moderator, he said equalizer. And so education is extremely important to our society, to our county. It was our founding fathers who said that the purpose of public education was to raise an enlightened citizenry. And so I'm extremely honored to be in the presence of these candidates. Being a Board of Education member and or a Board of Education candidate requires hard work, dedication, and sometimes the sacrifice of our own ideas. And so because we need to work for the betterment of the students and the staff of Frederick County Public Schools. So with that, I'm going to go over the rules for our forum this morning. Each candidate will get a 1-minute opening statement. They will have 1 minute to respond to each of the questions, and we're going to try and get to as many questions as we can. They will have the opportunity, if they select, to do a 30-second rebuttal, and that will be at your choice, candidates. And then they will have a 90-second opportunity for closing statements. Is everybody good? Okay. So, with that, I didn't write down the names. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Chloe, you are the first to respond to the question.
Actually, I think they have an
Opening.
Oh, never mind.
First.
I'm jumping the gun.
That's okay. How much time do I get for the opening?
1 minute.
1 minute.
Do we want to start on the left and move right?
Where are you starting?
That's fine.
Okay, Chloe first. Sure. Okay.
Go first if you don't mind. Okay.
Well, hello everyone. As you all know, I'm Celeste, and I'm running for Frederick County DOE. Firstly, just because no other leftist entered the race, but more importantly, I would like to see significant structural change in the institutions around us, hopefully starting with our local schools. I think my input and potential influence on the DOE would be a very valuable tool, and for representing marginalized students as well as making said change. So, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here up here in Thurmont. I love going up there. It reminds me of home. If you don't know, I'm originally from West Virginia. I've been in Frederick about 28 years. This is my 4th year on the Board of Education, my 3rd year in leadership, and my 1st year as president. So I'm excited to continue to address the challenges that we face in Frederick County with revenue, with staffing, with our special education. I'm just excited to have that opportunity to continue our momentum. We're seeing great progress with our academics. We have incredible staff and incredible teachers, administrators, and support staff, and I'm just excited. I hope you give me the opportunity to take 4 more years and progress with the work that we're doing. So thank you for being here.
I don't know if everybody can see me, but if it's okay.
Did you put yours on?
This
It's
one?
not working?
It should be on, but it's just not projecting. Oh, sorry about that. Hello.
These won't project into the room.
It's just okay. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Okay. Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for organizing this fantastic forum. It's such an honor to be here with these candidates. And my name is Maria Carrasco, and I'm running for Board of Education because I believe every child in our county deserves to have a school system that sets them up to thrive. I am a behavioral scientist, a public health professional, and I am a researcher as well. I spent 9 years working as a contractor for USAID, and before that I was running large-scale multi-million-dollar programs with multiple organizations and partners such as World Health Organization, the United Nations, et cetera, et cetera. So I am bringing global level expertise to serve our county, our beloved county. I've lived in Frederick County for 9 years. My family and I love it here. We are starting a small organic farm, and we're putting deep roots. So I have two children, one little girl in the school system, and as many of you, as all of us actually, have a stake, in seeing our schools work for all. Thank you. Sorry.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Casey Day. I am a 31-year veteran teacher here in Frederick County, where I've taught in elementary, middle, and high school, and I taught 15 years at Hood College. I'm running not because our schools are bad, but because they're places where I have seen we have amazing staff, we have amazing teachers, amazing support professionals, we have amazing students, and we have well-connected families. But I think there are things that we can do to improve and to do better. I see every day, every year, the impacts of the decisions that the Board of Education makes and how they play out in a classroom. And I want to bring that experience to the Board of Education. My focus is on looking for ways to provide equitable access for opportunity for coursework and programs, no matter where students live, to be able to provide the resources and staffing that we need to be able to give all of our students what they have, and to give educators and families a real voice and an opportunity. So I just thank you for the opportunity to be here, and look forward to connecting with you.
It's flashing. Okay. Hi, good morning. My name is Jess. I'm running for school board. I have 4 kids in Frederick County Public Schools. I am a public school teacher. I teach special education. And I'm running because we need someone to advocate for our staff, for our students, for our schools. As someone who has been advocating with Moms Who Made Action for Gun Violence Prevention, on still?
Yeah.
Yes, no? Is this one running out of
Yes.
gas? I have a passion for advocacy. I have a skill for advocacy, and as a Board of Education member, I do see that as one of my principal duties. We don't have taxation privileges on the board, and so those budgetary needs that we have to run our public schools is a result of our advocacy to our state and county legislators. And so we need someone on the board who not only understands what those decisions look like in the classroom, but also someone who understands how to advocate and get those funds that we need for our kids.
Do you want that one? Yeah, as long as those numbers are.
Okay. How's everybody doing today? My name is Chad King Wilson Sr. I'm a 19-year educator, 15 years in special education, 4 years in alternative education and social studies. I teach AP African American history and U.S. history at Watkins Mill High School. I also was a former head coach and have coached for 19 years. But the most important thing I am is a parent. I'm a parent of 2.
Use your big voice.
I just want to make sure everybody, because if they're hearing impaired, to make sure they can hear. So I'm a parent of 2 FCPS students, and so I'm running the Board of Education because I believe that our educators should have professional treatment and compensation. I believe that our students should have expanded access to curriculum. I also believe that representation matters. And I think that we live in such a diverse community, and I want to ensure that our schools reflect that diverse community in their curriculum, in their policies, and everything they do. And I'm also running as a community member that totally believes that public schools, if you have strong public schools, you have a strong community. Mike's dead. The mic's on.
Is this a good one? This is good.
Okay, we're going to start with our first question, and And Chloe, we will start with you. High school rankings in Frederick County are widely disparate. According to U.S. News, Urbana High School is ranked 17th in Maryland, while Catoctin High School, just 2 miles from here, is number 134. How would you address inequity in the quality of education our youth are receiving across the county? So I'll read it one more time. High school rankings in Frederick County are widely disparate. According to U.S. News, Urbana is ranked 17th in Maryland, while Catoctin High School, just 2 miles from here, is number 134. How would you address inequity in the quality of education our youth are receiving across the county?
Well, so that's a great question, and I think that this comes back to systemic failure, right? This is a problem not only in Frederick County, but also all over the nation. Schools that are ranked well, they get more attention, more funding, and schools that aren't ranked well, they're forgotten about, you know. I think we need to go to these schools to talk to people, just see what students, what teachers need, all sorts of things like that, right? And so I just think we need to focus more on, you know, let's say Catoctin, even though it's ranked less high, you know, probably for that reason. So yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much.
I'm actually going to go a little bit different on this one. I take a little bit of exception to the question, actually, is because I don't think there is inequity in the type of education these students are receiving. We have outstanding teachers and support staff in every school. The number one factor among achievement is economics. And if you factor in economics, special education, and the factors that surround that, that's what you're going to see in the inequities around performance in those schools. What we have to address is the inequity around classes that are provided in those different environments. We have the IB program at the Urbana School. We're not able, due to funding, to spread that program throughout our county. We have the Links program, one of our most successful programs in our entire county. We have that in one high school. We have our CTE programming that because of funding we're not able to equitably spread that across our county. We have outstanding instruction in our entire county, but we have to address all the inequities that these kids have at home.
In my career, I've spent about almost 25 years working to address health equity internationally and in the U.S. And what I've learned is that equal funding doesn't produce equal outcome, and that's in the cases where there's equal funding. You have to direct resources where the need is greatest. I would push, if I am elected, I would push for a transparent equity lens in our budget process so that the community can see how dollars are distributed across schools. In the equity issue, I will also, and in the website you can see the data where there are significant academic differences between different groups such as multilingual learners, African Americans, Latinos. I would look at the data there and really work with the school system to understand how to address those challenges with a learning plan. How are we closing those gaps? We cannot let those existing gaps persist. Thank you.
So I agree with Mr. Rose in the fact that we've got amazing teachers and amazing educational support professionals in all of our schools. But we do have very unequal access to programs. I teach at a small school. I teach at Brunswick. We're the Catoctin of the South, the county. And we are a small school, as Catoctin is. And there is, in addition to things like the IB program, the International Baccalaureate program, or specialized programs like Project Lead the Way for Engineering, the Links program, there are also things that happen in small schools where positions get combined or people are taking on multiple roles and our students don't end up with as much support as we see in large schools. There's not the diversity of staffing and not the diversity of coursework. There are classes my students can't take. So I think because we don't have the staffing to be able to do that as a small school. So I think we need to look specifically at how we can cluster schools to provide perhaps access between schools, being able to look at how we can make sure that all of our students, regardless of where they live, have access to the same classes and the same career pathways and support.
This room, yes. Okay. 60 seconds is not a lot of time for this big question, but there are 3 things I want to say. Usually rankings are based on AP enrollment, right? And so most of my answers to most of these questions are going to be hire more staff. Even in these smaller schools with smaller enrollments, you need more staff to staff those AP courses. Even if you have enrollment of a course that's only 15 kids, you still need to be able to offer it. Just because you're a smaller school doesn't mean that those kids don't deserve those opportunities, which will require more staff. Also, a lot of these rankings don't measure growth, and so children are not products. They come to our schools with different backgrounds and abilities and home lives, right? And so we need to take a look at how that growth is happening in those schools and perhaps rank our schools that way as well. Finally, I would like to second that sort of magnet opportunity, right? Allowing kids to take opportunities from various schools and various courses therein.
Well, I think we have wonderful schools, we have wonderful staff, as Mr. Rose and Ms. Day said, but I look at equity of access. We have an inequitable access point, whether it's transportation, trying to get from a Thurmont to an IB program in Urbana is impossible for a lot of families. We have inequities when it comes to curricular offerings. Our AP needs to be, AP offerings need to be expanded, but also our CT and CTC need to be expanded. There's only so many seats that students are able to apply for. We need to expand it. There should be something in the north, some in the south, something in the middle. Frederick is such a large county that we have to ensure that there's equitable access all throughout the county. And I also want to say that, when they look at rankings and, being an educator, I never look at rankings really to see how great a school is. School communities are flourishing everywhere. Those rankings are based off assessments and AP and things that students can't control. So I don't look at the ranking to see how great a school is. I look at how great the educators are doing and are the children safe.
Thank you. Okay, Dean, we'll start this question with you. How can we better prepare students for adulthood, such as financial education, civic and political education, career and technical education, college preparedness, or other strategies? So how can we better prepare students for adulthood?
Wow, that's a big question.
1 minute.
I think the best way to prepare them for adulthood is what we're trying to do with our college and career readiness. We have to provide our students a broad curriculum in which they can be exposed to any number of opportunities throughout our beautiful county, any number of opportunities within our profession. That's what I love about our career counselors that we hired 2 years ago. They're working with our middle schoolers to ensure that they're prepared to go into internships, which we have one of the largest internship programs in the state of Maryland. So we think that's really important to engage our students. We had 1,500 students apply to our Career Tech Center. We can only accommodate 600. But we're doing our best at our middle schools and our high schools to accommodate our kids and give them a broad form of education in order to be able to be prepared for career and college. Thank you.
For me, one thing that is very important to note in this question is that not every child is the same. Children follow different pathways. Some may go to the military, some may go in the technical career, some may go to college. And our school system is currently providing some opportunities in those directions, but as Alisa discussed, not everybody in the school system can access those opportunities equitably. So for me, what priority will be to ensure that there's equity in access to these wonderful opportunities that unfortunately some may not even know exist, right? Because for some parents, it's hard to navigate the school systems. Think about a multilingual learner. Yes, we do have Spanish translation, but even that, if you don't understand how the system works, it may be hard to know that these opportunities are available to your child. So again, it will be critical to ensure opportunities are available. And another area that is critical is this whole civics education. Our youth needs to know that they need to be engaged, that they need to be part of our democracy, that they need to vote. So I would make that a priority as well. Thanks.
So in my years of teaching, this has been one of the things that I think has been one of the most exciting opportunities in the last 10 years. is this movement towards really looking at what it takes for students to be prepared for adulthood, and that's not always just college. Because that was always the focus for so long. I teach in a career and technology education. I teach computer science and robotics. And in addition to the things that have been mentioned, equitable access, being able to, like if my students at my school could have access to the engineering program, most of my robotics kids go on to engineering careers, but they have no access to engineering classwork. In addition to those kinds of things, our students need real world opportunities to be able to try out those skills, and they need a chance to be able to put those together. I have students participating in our internship, working with partnerships through places like workforce development, to be able to expose kids to opportunities that are there that allow them to check out those careers before they make some of those decisions, and being able to truly support not just the academics, but those application pieces as well in the courses.
Again, 60 seconds, not a lot of time. But I would like to address the employment or post-secondary opportunities for our special education students. Students with IEPs don't have regular access to a transition support specialist. In Frederick County High Schools, they have like a transition coach who is also a special education teacher with a full course load and a full caseload. And so what I think we do need in every high school is a transition support specialist to help those children with IEPs navigate the world after graduation and help their families help with that process. We definitely need to expand our CTC program. I think we need to be exploring pathways through employment through FCPS, right? How can FCPS use this resource to hire people within our community from our schools? How can we support those children moving on to a career with FCPS after graduation?
Perfect timing. I don't want to be too repetitive because a lot of things I wanted to say are already said, but I will say one thing: civic engagement is extremely important, especially nowadays, and also ensuring that our county represents diversity, and not just diversity when we talk about race, but sexual orientation, gender. All those things should be valued and taught in our curriculum because the real world is diverse. When you go out into the corporate world, it's not homogenous. When you go out into the education world, it's not homogenous. So we need to ensure that everything we do goes forward with the idea of having that diversity. Ms. Douglas just talked about special education. We have to ensure that our special education programs are fully funded because our students, what they learn in those programs, they are going to take to the real world. We have to ensure that we have enough, as Mr. Rose said, that we have enough seats for CT and CTC because that is opportunities that our students are going to have in the future. And we also have to give them the freedom to read diverse things and analyze.
Thank you very much. Oh, you want a rebuttal?
Yeah, I wanted to just. Yeah. I just real quick wanted to address something from a whole standpoint. Something Ms. Douglas brought up. Unfortunately, we can't be everything to everybody. Those things cost money. What we have to do is continue to strongly advocate with our county and our state to support us for the services that we need to support our students. One great thing is if you made it over to the Frederick Fairgrounds for the transition fair last week, there are incredible resources for our special education students to move forward in their careers, and our success program is going to have their largest graduating class ever.
Okie dokie. Question number 3, Maria, we'll start with you. Oh, we have another rebuttal?
Another rebuttal right here.
She hadn't answered yet.
No, we had a.
Sorry about that.
Wait, Chloe hasn't had a chance to speak to the question.
Yeah, gotcha.
Much like everyone else here, I think that expanding CTC, career and technology program would be beneficial. I also think that, bringing back dual enrollment is a big deal, I think we need to prioritize that in the budget a lot because that can really help, especially low-income students, marginalized students. That can give them opportunities that otherwise they wouldn't have, and so I think that's really important. And
Could I rebut?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And so to what Mr. Rose said, of course we don't have limited funds, but we do need, as board members, to be advocating for those needs, right? And if we find a need and we decide that that is a need that all of our schools have, then we need to be advocating for that to our fullest capabilities, right? We're not going to ask for a budget that does less than what we need. We need to ask for a budget that fulfills all of those promises to the students that we have.
Any more rebuttals? Okay.
Just one last point to make that has been in my mind and heart. At the federal level, yes, they're far away from us, but right now we say we don't have money for special education. It's underfunded, right? We only get 12% out of the 40% or so that we should be getting, but we're spending money elsewhere, right? In wars, in things that, how do they benefit education in our county? So one area that I want to explore is how do we take the advocacy to the federal level so that we get those dollars to educate our kids in our county.
Pat, did you want to
Yeah, and it's additive, but we're talking about adulthood. I would be remiss if I didn't bring in the parent aspect of it as well, is that our schools are the center of our communities, whether or not we want to say they are or not. So we should also be collaborating with a parent like me that wants to be there, but also inviting others in different communities that aren't reached out to ensure that we're getting or we're educating the whole child and supporting the entire community. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. And mea culpa, I'm so sorry, Chloe. I just saw the end. Okay, so Maria, we'll start with you on question 3. What policies should accompany the use of AI and of personal computers, much less cell phones, in the classroom regarding multiple issues such as environmental costs, unequal access, cheating and plagiarism, and aggregated opinion that passes for research?
Could you read that again, please?
Yeah.
Could you read it a little slower so we can write it down? Thanks.
All right.
Cool.
What policies should accompany the use of AI, of personal computers, cell phones in the classroom with regards to multiple issues such as environmental costs, unequal access, cheating and plagiarism, and aggregated opinion that passes for research?
And feel free to address just one or two. I
was like, could I put in a request for extra minutes?
I know.
So, do you need me to read it again?
That's a good question.
You need to understand what it's getting at. So,
I need more time.
are we good?
Okay.
Okay. All right, Maria, would you start?
I'll start. I'll give it a try. So in this question, we have 3 different areas that are a little bit different, or maybe quite a bit different. AI, personal computers, cell phones, that they are not the same. So and each of them will take many minutes to answer. So maybe I'll go with cell phones because that's the least popular one, and where I think most people will agree. Cell phones are, they're a distraction. Our teachers in this panel will tell you, and I've heard from teachers that I've talked to, how distracting it is to have kids reaching for them in class, how damaging they can be to attention and to learning. So in terms of cell phone use, in fact, there's right now a bill in the state that is on the desk of the governor. It's almost signed, where they will not be allowed. So that one is an easy one. I took the easy one to answer first, and I have a few more minutes. Maybe I'll note that for AI, that is a huge issue for all of us right now, not only in our schools. We need to learn how to use it, but it also needs to be age appropriate. AI is a tremendous tool, but we need to be very careful with how we face it for use for our kids. It needs to be developmentally appropriate. And just to give you an example, I don't let my 9-year-old use AI. That's right, but high school students probably need it. So looking at the evidence, let's look at where AI makes sense. And I know there's an AI policy already under development. And I think that's my time. I could go into personal computers.
Sorry, we're going to do 90 seconds for this question.
Okay. Okay, because that's a lot, yes.
Let's see if I can do 30 seconds.
Thank you for that extension. And for,
Oh, no, you were.
I'm
You're
going
out.
my time.
Yeah, we're already at overnight.
Okay, thank you.
So cell phones, ban them. Personal computers, we don't use them in the class. Students are not allowed to have them in schools, which is because they don't fall under the filtering software, so we have no ability to filter them. So we use school-based computers. So to go to AI in that regard, and I don't mean to be flippant about cell phones, but I teach high school, ban them. Those little baggies that zip them up so that, they don't get them out till the end of the day. I'm all about that, except in cases of need for special education accommodations and medical issues. AI, I helped develop, I worked with the central office to develop the first guidelines on AI that are in our student code of conduct and our teacher code of conduct. And a really important piece in that is the fact that the AI is being utilized in industries, and in different industries differently. In computer science, AI is used regularly. And so we need to teach kids, not just let them use it, but we need to teach them how to use AI appropriately for industries and for the types of work that they need to do. And that comes with understanding that AI makes up stuff, and it's not necessarily truthful. One of the hardest projects I gave to some of my senior students was, I want you to write this paper entirely with AI. Like, you can't write any of it yourself. You have to convince AI to do things correctly. And they said it was the hardest thing they've ever done. And so teaching them the limitations within that, I think, are important. But also, we need to get kids off of computers. I'm a computer science teacher, and my students don't test on computers because they will cheat. And my students don't, all of us do. But they would cheat, so they handwrite a lot of things. When they finish their work, they can't use the computers. We need to give them time to engage and chat and talk with each other and build skills off of screens as well. You can't have my mic.
Okay, so 90 seconds. Correct. Cell phones, ban them, be away all day. Legislation works in my mind. We have students who don't feel comfortable providing any sort of response without first consulting their cell phone or first consulting AI, and that's really troubling. We have students who we have scaffolded every skill, right? We're isolating isotopes in chemistry, and we're helping them walk through the process. And if their phones are away, all of a sudden they recognize, wait, I can do this, right? And that immediate need to go to their cell phone or to go to AI or to go to their device is gone, and it's really quite magical, and that's where education happens. And so yes, ban cell phones. Again, we need to teach AI because it is being used. I have a niece whose job is to develop the AI and the computer programming that her company uses. Companies are using them, and so we need to prepare our students to do that, but to do it responsibly. And so staff need training in how we are supporting our children in using AI responsibly. And again, back to that workforce question, that is the way we're preparing our children for the workforce. It's how do we interact with AI? Finally, our personal computers, again, not in the schools. I think teachers are moving away from those Chromebooks, right? Our students who have access to school-based Chromebooks, teachers are moving away from that because, again, they see more earnest and honest learning without it.
Cell phones, ban them. So I'm a teacher as well, but it's also a safety hazard in school. You have kids communicating with each other about what doors are unlocked and where to go. So we think about these drills that we talk about safety with schools. Cell phones actually go against those safety protocols. AI is here to stay. We have to make sure that we are educating people how to use it, and especially our students and our staff, how to use it appropriately. It is here. Corporations are using it, businesses are using it, education uses it, but we have to teach them how to use it. And there's a flip side of it, and this goes kind of into personal computers and having too much technology in school. When COVID happened, we went completely to technology, but what people don't understand is the state of Maryland and their testing went completely to technology. So when we have elementary schools, middle schools that are being assessed, they're being assessed on computers all the time. So they have to know how to use them just to be able to access the assessment. The issue is they're losing skills such as writing, such as analyzing, such as having conversations with people. So what happens in education is a lot of times they don't listen to the educators, and the pendulum swings too far to the right, and then 5 years later it swings too far to the left. So I would say with all these things, let's listen to the professionals inside the classroom that say ban the cell phones, that say we have an over-reliance on technology, and that say that AI is here to stay, but we want to learn how to use it effectively and appropriately.
So I think that AI has no place in public education or really education at all. It makes stuff up a significant amount of the time. It's also killing the environment. You know, I don't think it should be used at all. But on the topic of cell phones, I'm actually going to split off from everyone else here. I don't think they should be banned. If you're a student and you're going to be distracted, you're going to be distracted either way. You know, and you might just be sitting there, you know, bored while the lesson's going on if you don't have your cell phone with you. There's also the issues of certain kids with medical conditions. Maybe they have it on them, or special education students, and it can be hard to get that reasonable accommodation even though you're entitled to it, right? It can be hard to actually go through that process and get that. So I think banning them would be a mistake, but that's just me.
Thank you. About 2 years ago, I introduced a full K through 12 ban on cell phones in the classroom, off and away from bell to bell. Unfortunately, it didn't pass. I didn't get the support that I needed. I was able to get a K through 8, and we've seen amazing turnarounds in our middle schools. You just walk into a lunchroom at a middle school now, and it's incredible to see our kids engaging, talking, and just being kids. So I appreciate the fact that I'm hopeful the governor will sign the bill and we won't have a question. It'll get before our policy committee and we'll move forward a ban in high school from bell to bell. And I look forward to that. I met with the Yonder folks of the bags. I'm a fan, but they're $1 million just to do our high schools and $200,000 a year to maintain. So that's a bit of an issue. But we've had good luck in our middle schools with enforcement, so I think we'll be okay. AI, to be perfectly honest, we failed on this one. We need to take charge on this one. We've kind of drug our feet on it. We were waiting on other folks like the state and the feds to step in and offer restrictions on AI, and they haven't done that. So it's time for us to step in. We're behind the 8 ball here. We've got to make a move, and I'm encouraging our policy committee coming up that we're going to introduce a strengthened and strong policy on AI and technology use in the classroom, and I commend our teachers for their use of technology reasonably in our classrooms.
And just as a researcher, I would encourage you all to look at the impact of AI on neurological development in young brains. Okay, so now moving on, we're going to move, Casey, you're going to start this one. How should we be protecting students who are bullied or otherwise vulnerable based on religion, race, gender, LGBTQ identity, citizenship or family and immigration status, culture, ability, or economic status? I'll repeat that again. All right, so vulnerability based on religion, race, gender, LGBTQ identity, citizenship or family immigration status, culture, ability, or economic status, and do we have a student bill of rights?
We're going to do 90 seconds.
Okay. Do we have a student bill of rights? Okay. 90 seconds. Okay, so I believe we should protect all of our students, and I've advocated for that, with the things that we have. We have put back into place this year, not that it was ever missing, but our policy 443, which provides generalized protections, and I think overall the system has good policies in place. I think part of the difficulties that we have to do with implementation of that, and I hear pretty much every week from someone, staff or families, who are telling me that things like bullying policies, things like that, are not being evenly applied across buildings, that the consequences, that structure, that protections are not being put in place evenly and consistently. And so that is a big concern. And so I think that the Board of Education has a place in oversight to look at how those policies are being applied and making sure that those policies are being equitably and equally applied for all students. I have heard from families that certain of the groups that were mentioned get more protection than others, And in some schools, it is dependent on sometimes the administrator's beliefs and perspectives. So that is something that I think needs to have some serious looking at. I do not believe we have a student bill of rights. We have a code of conduct for our students and for our staff, which helps to look at some of those pieces in place where things go. Another place that I think that FCPS and the board need to step up to do is looking at our protections for our immigrant students and making sure that there is a solid SOP in the event that we have enforcement protections, ICE in our neighborhoods. So, we saw things happen at Hillcrest, so that's something I think that needs to be put into place.
Okay. Yes, I would agree that the Board of Education has a responsibility to prevent bullying and to respond to bullying equitably across all schools, regardless of who the administration is, who those children are involved, who the parents of those children might be. The Board of Ed has a responsibility to make sure that those anti-bullying policies are followed across the county. That, I think, goes back to Mr. Wilson's comments earlier about citizenship education. As long as we are explicitly teaching our kids about the First Amendment, right? Why it's important to have a voice, why it's important to recognize that everyone else needs to have a voice. How do we protect that among ourselves, right, and in our schools, which is why we would need a student bill of rights. And so, going back to the culture and the citizenship and the family immigration status issue, that has become an issue for many of our families, and many of our families are afraid. We have children who are not coming to school for fear of ICE enforcement, and there are some cultures in those schools where staff are not responsive in a way that is sensitive to these children and these families, and so our staff needs consistent and regular intervention and training so that they understand.
This is a huge question, but let's start here. First of all, schools should be safe and inclusive environments for all students. It shouldn't matter what your religion is, shouldn't matter what your race is, your sexual orientation. When you come to school, you should be protected and you should have equitable access to every curriculum, every protection that every other student does. Our schools are not homogenous. 90% of students in our country go to public schools. So therefore, public schools have to be a place where we are culturally responsive in our pedagogy, culturally responsive in our policy, and culturally responsive when we are engaging families in the community. We have a code of conduct, but I also want to say, myself and Mr. Rose, we got the opportunity to go visit Hillcrest, and this was a school that I absolutely fell in love with, and one of the reasons I fell in love with is because they have a community school. They are a community school. And with a community school, every school honestly should be a community school because it's engagement with the community, it's accepting of diversity, and it's ensuring that every student is fed, every student that might need, extra resources are given those resources. 443, I'm 100% behind 443, and I believe it should be strengthened. I don't think that should be put onto teachers or educators, but it's a way to protect students. And when we talk about ability, a strengthened special education program. Oh, cut me off right there.
So we actually do have pretty robust anti-bullying policies in place. They're simply not enforced pretty much across the board, it seems. So I think that it's really important to have better training for our teachers and for our staff. With that being said, though, we do need stronger policies. We do need to bolster these policies and whatnot, right? 443, right? Like it just a few months ago, it was watered down, and I don't think that that's right. I think that has to be undone, right? And we need a policy in place making sure that ICE is nowhere near our schools. We need to protect all our students, especially. It's just really important that students feel safe and that they can come to school to learn, which is the purpose of school, without fear of either being bullied or having ICE come in or any of that.
So this is a question, unfortunately, that comes up every election for the last, as long as I've been alive. And that can't stop us. We can't become cynical. Every student deserves to be safe in school, and every parent needs to know that their child is safe when they go to school. But unfortunately, racism, anti-Semitism, misogyny, sexual abuse verbally exists in our schools. And all we have to look at is what's being modeled for our kids today. Just look at what was tweeted out by our president on Easter Sunday. So that gets out to our kids, and then we have to recognize the way they're taught at home. That's why when you hear candidates, they want to remove SEL from our classroom, social emotional learning, that's a preventative practice for our schools versus having to go after the fact. We need to get behind, we got into this big thing a few years ago where we wanted to cut down on referrals and suspensions. So we got a lot of reports on that. But what we really need reports on is the why behind the referral and the why behind the suspension, so we can address it with the type of restorative practices that will benefit all of our kids. So that's important. And it's also important to know that we do have a strong standard operating procedure around ICE on our school property. Everything else off school property has to be addressed with our collaboration with our local law enforcement, which we have a very strong relationship with the city. I'll leave it at that.
So as it has been said, every student deserves to feel safe, valued in school. They deserve to know that they belong. This is where our children are developing their self-esteem, our youth, and that will carry them through their lives. So this bullying cannot stand. We do have a policy. I believe it does need stronger implementation. And being an FCPS parent, my daughter actually went through an experience where she was teased, let's call it teased, bullied, whatever you want to call it, at the bus. She would come home running. She would come home crying, running down. I'm seeing her coming down the street. She didn't want to take the bus anymore. So how do parents deal with this? I think parents need a little bit more information on how to navigate such situations. Because the kid will tell you, no, mommy, don't do anything. Just leave it. It's okay. I'll figure it out. Sometimes they need help, and they need the parent to be there, and the parent needs to know what they need to do to help that child, because this is not a little thing. It's a very important component of the child developing a healthy self-esteem, a sense of belonging. So again, I think there's a policy, but implementation needs to be strengthened. Thank you.
Could I rebut? Okay.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
And Dean and then Jen.
Yep.
So Mr. Rose identified that we do have ICE policies in place within our schools, but this is about preventing bullying, right? And so we need to make sure that, again, our staff and our children are exposed to these conversations about different immigration statuses and who we are as a community and how we treat one another. And, we did mention those SEL opportunities, which we need to continue and reinforce with immigration conversations and status of our immigrant neighbors.
I really just wanted to add on part of your question. There is student rights and responsibilities is part of our code of conduct. And to support what Chloe said, we just have to ensure as a board, as part of our governance, that the code of conduct is enforced consistently across all our schools.
Yeah, and I was actually going to say that too, which is ironic, but I also wanted to bring up this point, is the fact that it also has to be implied about the educators that we see in our classrooms every day. 31% of our schools do not have a Hispanic or Latino educator standing in front of them. So when we talk about that, we talk about bullying and we talk about race and all this, it also has to reflect in the staff that we have. And being able to recruit and retain diverse educators is super important, because when a student sees himself in front of them or from their community, they're able to feel better about going to school. That makes them safer.
Any further rebuttal? Okay, so Jess, we'll start with you this time. How can we better support students who are hungry, housing insecure, or otherwise struggling to focus on their education due to a lack of access to resources? So how can we better support students who are hungry, housing insecure, or otherwise struggling to focus on their education due to lack of access to resources?
Great. So definitely we need to expand our community schools. We need more community schools. Those public wraparound services that happen usually in elementary schools give families access to resources beyond just their children's education, right? As Mr. Wilson was saying earlier, it gives them access to mental health. It gives them access to physical health screenings and inoculation. And for our special education families, it gives families those resources about behavioral interventions and for food services and links with other community resources such as Rise Western Maryland or San Hispano for our immigrant families. And we know that we have way too many families on that Alice report in Frederick County who are parents working full time and still not making it above that poverty line. And we need to be supporting all of our children and by expanding again these community schools and these wraparound services.
I've worked in Title I for 17 out of my 19 years as an educator, and I've done that intentionally. And this is a question that has popped up every single place that I've worked. I don't have a full answer, to be completely transparent, but what I can tell you is building the partnership and communication between the county council and the Board of Education is imperative. Those resources, and also building the partnerships between the communities and the parents in the schools are absolutely crucial. Because although a lot of times they seem to think schools can solve every single problem of society, schools try their best. Part of my take-home salary is buying food for my kids, and I have a little cupboard in my room in case a kid needs to grab noodles or something. Most educators do that. For us as FCPS, we have to ensure that we are intentionally reaching out to these community programs and that we're intentionally going to federal and state levels to get the funding we need for students, but that we're also in the communities asking what they need, that we are communicating with our educators that are in the classrooms every single day. So again, I don't have the 100% answer for that, but I can tell you it's going to take every single person in the community to be able to do this. And a hungry child is a child that does worse in school. So we need to make sure that we are feeding and we are creating a safe environment for our students.
So I think students and families would greatly benefit from being made, more aware of the different programs and resources that we have here in Frederick. We actually do have multiple mutual aid groups, and what they do is, they hand out food and they help people with other sorts of things too. So I think that's a big deal, as well as just making schools. They're trying to make schools a place where kids feel at ease, where they're excited to go and they can talk about what's going on at home with, teachers or counselors or whoever, and they'll actually listen and just be there and whatnot. So I think that is really important, and
This is pillar 4 of the blueprint. I hate it when they label them 1 through 4 because it's no less important than all the others. They should all be 1 because hungry kids can't learn. Kids who have been exposed to trauma can't learn. So it's very important that we support our wraparound services. I have spent more time in Annapolis than any Board of Education member ever. Not because I'm bragging that I like to go and I like to talk to these people. And I like to advocate not just for the school system, but I advocate for the Boys and Girls Club of Frederick County. I advocate for the City Youth Matrix. I advocate for the Mental Health Association. I advocate for Blessings in a Backpack. Because all of these organizations can do all the things that we can't afford to do. They can partner with us to apply these supports to our students so when they come to school ready and safe and feeling confident and ready to learn. We need to support these organizations in every way we can. I'm proud of the relationships that we have with these organizations like Love for Laughlin and many of the others. Love for Laughlin doesn't just do inoculations. They provide clothing and food to students. I mean, we need to understand how valuable these services are, and we need to continue to support them every time we advocate at the county and the state level, because I think, as I mentioned earlier, school systems can't do it all. So we have to have strong community partners, and I'm proud that we do have those in Frederick County, and we need to continue to advocate for them.
Yeah, I agree with what was said about the need to expand community schools, and also what has been noted that a hungry student cannot learn. You know, we human beings, we're not just about education or about health, or, you know, we're a total human person. And all of these areas are interconnected, but in fact, how we have them set up in our government systems is that, you know, you have the school system, you have the health department, you have the county, etc., you know, the different departments, and sometimes these different organizations are so focused doing their thing that they're silos. They don't really talk to each other, they're not collaborating, and in fact, in my experience in health, we were all in public health, we were always trying to figure out how can we better work with schools, how can we break in? Well, you know, the schools are so busy trying to achieve their goals that they sometimes don't have time to partner with these other organizations. So as a board member, I think that would be a priority, to look at how to better integrate and collaborate with these local organizations that can extend the great work that FCPS already does, but addressing these social determinants of health, or these social determinants that some kids need support with. And I have heard from some community members that it can be sometimes a little lengthy process to try to engage with FCPS, to try to do an MOU, to, for example, do some after-school programming or whatnot. So that would be an area to look into. How do we break barriers and to break these silos? Thank you.
It's probably not okay just to say yes, but you know, coming last, so this is a little tricky. So I spent 9 years teaching at a high poverty middle school, and during that period of time, which was probably one of my most wonderful experiences, but during that time, I saw the amazing work that our school counselors and our community liaison and our CAS workers, our community agency school support workers, and our mental health support workers in the school did in addressing these very issues. And so, you know, as everyone has said, schools can't afford to fund everything, but in Frederick County, we have such an amazingly caring community and so many organizations that work together. And so what these folks do in prioritizing, as a member of the Board of Education, part of the goal is to prioritize the work that these people do and make sure that we protect it in any of our staffing formulas. I mean, there have been years when our school counseling allocations have been looked at for cuts, not this year, but in previous, you know, in my time, when we cut our CAS workers and those pieces, and the people who suffer from that are our students and our families, because they're not as easily able to be connected to the services. So when Blessings in a Backpack shows up at schools and has those baggies for students every weekend to take home, that's coordinated through our community liaisons and our CAS workers. So when we have food drives that come out and drop, when the Maryland Health Food Bank drops off food at the school once a month, that's all coordinated through these folks. So we need to make sure we preserve those positions in our budget that are going to be the ones that are going to be connecting students and helping families.
Any rebuttal?
It's really, again, just an addition. I don't know if you're paying attention, but the budget that was released last week by the Trump administration cuts community block funding, which would cripple these supports that wrap around for our students. So ask your congressman, ask your congresswoman, ask your senator, what do they plan to do about this?
Anybody else?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so Chad, we'll start with you on this one. Funding question. How do you propose to address funding shortfalls for education in the coming budget year, including but not limited to the loss of special needs personnel? So how do you propose to address funding shortfalls?
This may not be a popular opinion, but I don't think, I believe that funding shows where your priorities are. And so a budget should be created with special education being fully funded and then budgeting for everything else. When I see that staff are being cut in special education, to me, that is a violation of IDA. It's a violation of students' least restrictive environments. And honestly, it's a violation of our promise to those families and students that receive special education services. So I prioritize keeping front-facing staff well compensated in front of our students, and especially protecting those that are working with our more vulnerable students. And I call them students with superpowers. Other people call them students with disabilities. But these are the students that I feel need more of the budget tailored there. And there's different cuts we can make throughout the budget to ensure. One thing that always happens is when they have to cut an education budget, the first place they go is staff. They go after staff compensation, and they go after special education because they see that as a bigger part of a budget. It's a bigger part of a budget because it's federally mandated. And so as a board member, I don't want to cut special ed. I want to enhance special education and look at the budget because there's other places where we can trim in order to ensure that our special education students have everything that they need.
So with elected officials, there is a certain amount of platform that you inherently get, right? Because you're a public figure, people know, what you say publicly and whatnot. So I think we don't have to sit here and just accept, that this budget is, this amount of money set aside by the county council, right? We can go to them, we can demand publicly that they give us more funding because the money is there. Like, they can easily pull from FCSO, they just won't. So I think that that's ultimately what needs to happen. Just put pressure on the county council, try and get them to allocate more funds.
Let me be clear here because I'll talk about this at the end. This is not a criticism, this is a clarification. There are no cuts in FCPS. We need to change that language. We reallocate. I wish we didn't have to, but we do. So, because Dr. Dyson believes we're not cutting positions, and I share that vision. If you look at surrounding districts around us, we've got districts cutting 15, 50, 100 folks from their payrolls. We're not doing that. We're actually adding services. We're adding 3 expressions programs in this coming year in this budget. In order to do that, we have to reallocate some resources. Those are some tough decisions. The other thing that handicaps us in funding, and please excuse my language, the whole funding situation in the state of Maryland is ass backwards. Here's the thing. We don't know how much money we're going to get from the state. We don't know how much money we're going to get from the county. We don't know how much money we're going to get from the federal. But we have to set a budget. I came into this 4 years ago advocating to put forth a budget that showed what it takes to run a school system. And guess what? We put forth a budget that asked for $75 million extra dollars. And we had a shortfall of $52 million. We had to cut from that. And that's hard. And that's a lesson you have to learn. And we have to work with our county executive. We have to work with our state leaders. And yes, sometimes we're not putting forth the budget that shows exactly what it costs to run a school system. And I'll continue this later.
So one critical piece here for me as a parent, as an FCPS parent, is to understand the budget better. I've read what the administrator, what the superintendent put out. I looked at that. I looked at previous years, and honestly, I'm still trying to figure out, specifically where does it say that the BSS and BCBAs and the librarians are being cut? Those FTEs are being, reduced. Like Mr. Rose said, that nobody's being cut. These positions are being reduced. Reduced is still, the positions are not there. We will not, the kids who used to have those services will not have those services. That is a challenge. So from where I'm sitting and not being at the board yet, I don't have the level of detail to really see where else we cut. I would love to see, is there any front-facing areas that do not get to our special needs, that do not get to front-facing staff where we can cut? Again, I'm unfortunately at a bit of a disadvantage not having that level of detail, being a member of the public. But right now, being a member of the public, I can tell you it is not clear. But as an elected board member, I would